everyone, and welcome to Digital Dialogues powered by CXO Digital Paths. In this dynamic world of startups, capital is only one piece of the growth puzzle. For emerging ventures, the journey from idea to market leadership demands not just funding, but the right mix of strategy, insights, operational guidance, and access to influential networks. Today's conversation, we will explore how founders can navigate this high stake environment, build meaningful investor relationship, and unlock the resources that transform the promising ideas into sustainable market ready businesses. And for that, today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Sushanto Mitra, who's the CEO of Lead Invest. A warm welcome, Sushanto.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Sushanto, early stage startups get through a lot of things. But with their journey, they need to strike a balance between securing capital and even finding an investor who can act as long term mentors to them. How should they approach this aspect?
So, I'm saying there are two possibilities. Possibility number one is that your investor is also your mentor. And the second possibility is that investor is a separate person, or mentor is a separate person. And there can be a hybrid model by which some investors are acting as mentors and some are pure investors. And I think, the situation is so dynamic that the type of mentoring that a startup requires in the initial months and years is very different what is required, say, a couple of years after that. So the type of mentors required, the type of investors required keeps on changing. But I think there is one common factor that most studies have shown that successful startups always have mentors. It could be your uncle, it could be your professor, it could be an industry expert, it could be a finance guy, it could be a lawyer, it could be your investor, it could be anybody. But what is essential is having a mentor. And I just want to add, without digressing, is that this is an area where in the last many years, Indian startups don't take mentoring or mentorship very seriously. It is probably a generational issue, and it's also an issue of the characteristics of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who, against everybody's advice, goes ahead and does a startup. Because if you do all the math, nobody would be a startup founder. So the probability of success is 1 on 75 or 50. He or she having been through that journey, now says that I don't want to take advice because everybody told me, my mother and my aunt and my uncle and my professor and everybody said don't do it. And I went ahead and did it. Now I don't need advice from them. I'm good for myself because they're very self-assured. And yet, if they remain deaf to people's advice, maybe he or she will fail. So it's a very fine balance of what to listen to and what not to listen to. But irrespective of that, you need mentors. If the mentor and the investor is the same person, very good, but don't necessarily feel that it is necessary that they have to be the same person. They can be completely different people. Or it could be, as I said, a mix. And you keep on changing them as your company progresses from where it is.
Okay, definitely that's something which is key because as generation of entrepreneurs change, the thought process change and their approach towards this entire idea of entrepreneurship also change. But apart from this thing, Sushanta, there's another thing is having a product market fit aspect. So, and considering it's a competitive world out there. So what are the key signals that a startup should look to assess whether their product is actually market fit enough or not, because if it is there bang on with the requirement, they will definitely have meaningful investors also. So what are the signals that they should look forward to?
So it's it's what is called product myopia, and is very much present in academic institutions and highly technical founders who think that my product or service is so good that people will queue up and buy my product. But in reality, it never happens. And unfortunately, many of our very innovative startups in India are founded by such people. I spent over 5 years in IIT Bombay running the independent. This is the classic problem of let's say, a professor founded company where they are so focused on the technology and the IP and all, they don't think that anything else matters. And little, for them to appreciate that technology or the product is only 20% of the entire business that one is doing. And they focus completely on the product. And the other is that, I always tell the story about, the Windows software. Bill Gates took the product idea to the customer, sold it, and then came back to his garage and built the product, right? Which is Microsoft Windows. And they say that it's never too early to take customer feedback, right? So Bill Gates took, and rest, as they say, is history. Became perhaps the most successful product in India in the world for a long time. We don't take our product to the market. We are very scared of showing our product because somebody else will copy it. Even the idea, we have noticed that, I'm being a little critical here, just to, for the entrepreneurs who are listening, to, take that advice, that hiding idea is of zilch value. Only person who can execute it is the person who has started it, the passion he or she will have. I will not have it. I'm an investor. A lot of founders come to me and say, sign an NDA. I don't want to tell you what my product is. So how will we invest if we don't know what your product is, right? So don't hide your product. Share your, get feedback, and, see that there is a market. In fact, we at Lead Angels are very clear, as I was sharing earlier with you, that we only invest in companies which have revenues on the ground, because we think that at least they have crossed that major hurdle. They may not have got product market fit, but at least there is somebody in the market who's willing to buy their product. And a lot of companies fail in this part.
Okay.
Specifically coming to CXO levels interest, there is a locality in Bangalore called Koramangala. You may be aware. A lot of techie startups have started there. And they all had many of them had products to sell to telcos. And they had to get to, Bharti or Vodafone or the other companies. It was almost impossible for an early stage startup to reach those people who are the ultimate buyers of that product. At the same time, these companies were buying things from overseas, not knowing that such people existed in Koramangala. So many of the companies started in Koramangala and died in Koramangala, not being able to reach the CTO of Bharti. And whereas the CTO of Bharti, she was looking for, a solution, and she could not find it in India, so she bought it from abroad. I'm saying there is that disconnect that exists in India today between of course, far less than what was, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But this is also a critical problem, that how will a young 22-year-old, recent grad from a college in Bangalore reach the CTO of Bharti? To reach their office, you have to go through 3 sets of secretaries, right? It's impossible for that person to go. How do you solve that problem? So yes, if you can, and other people in the media can solve this problem. And in fact, they could be their first customers. And today, many of corporate venture capital is a very important part of a lot of corporates today. And that could solve both the problem of somebody trying to find a customer and an investor at the same time. You know, because if
Okay.
Bharti or Vodafone or whoever it is likes your product, then they could also be an investor and a customer at the same time.
Okay.
Both are problems which a startup has to solve. Yeah.
And Sushanta, this example which you stated is very and because uh, having the reach to customer is one thing, but another aspect is having that kind of CXO network play because that really accelerates the go-to-market effort. So, how do you think the kind of importance it holds, and how should these early stage scaling startups need to ensure that these roadblocks are being well taken care of for them?
So till now, NASCOM and other agencies have tried to create such sort of meets. Uh, Today, it is done more like an event where startups come and present in front of CXOs and hope. Uh, it's like if I may use the word, it's like speed dating, right? And speed dating does not necessarily work with companies which are so deeply involved, people who don't have the time to get involved with startups, right? So I think that the solution lies in a forum where corporates share their problems with startups, and the startups then sort of try and provide their solutions to it in sort of interactive form. Because see, corporates also are busy people. They're running their businesses. Startups are busy trying to get money and customers and so on. Because nobody has time to interact with with each other. Today, and also just as much as the startups don't want to share their ideas and product with other people, corporates don't want to share their problems with others. Because you don't want competition to know what problems you are facing, right? So it needs to be moderated by someone like yourself, who ensures that there is some sort of black box around which these problems and solutions get across, and don't get mixed up on route.
Okay. And beyond all these aspects and beyond funding and that kind of mentorship, I think there's the need of a very strategic guidance for the growth stage startups that are really required to transition from product validation aspects to ensure that they get into that market expansion phase. So, what kind of guidance or strategy or mentorship that they actually need to focus upon?
So, as I said in the beginning, that every stage and every startup's requirements are different. So there's not one size that fits all, right? Because every startup product has a different market, addresses, solves a unique problem. So there is no one blanket solution for everybody. Having said that, the key is to find uh, the right person at the right time. That means at what stage the startup is, what are somebody who wants to do business outside of India requires a very different type of mentor than somebody who wants to do business in India. Somebody which is trying to sell a product to SMEs will require very different support than somebody who's trying to sell to the Fortune 1000 companies. So each situation and product, whether it is a very high-tech product and what sort of validations it requires before you can take it to customers, whether you need to partner with, the system integrators or the Big Four or any other sort of consultants before you can take it. So it varies, but yes, some structure uh, it needs to be found. And I'm saying sometimes the startups will also not know what is the right mentor. It has to be a process of discovering what value I can add to the startup, and then what is the problem the startup is facing and what value can I add to it, and see to solve the problem.
Okay. That's
So there are
great.
no easy answers. Sorry, there is no answer, one right answer. Yeah.
No, definitely, Sushanta. As in, the journey of entrepreneurship in itself is a very complex journey, and there are no right answers and no wrong answers, I would say. And that is something which has come up very clearly from our discussion also, because as startups move towards success and towards their expansion journey, the key requirement, as you mentioned, is definitely finding those true set of mentors, investors, which may or may not overlap. And time to time, you need to change the goalpost, so your mentors or investors will also change. Your strategies also, your strategies also would require mid-path pivoting basis the kind of journey and the challenges that you foresee. And definitely that capability, those set of connections and mentorship definitely holds really key fundamental aspects to have a very successful journey for these growth startups. So while it's fueling the engine with funding or strategic investors, or maybe that strong CXO network to ensure that they get that kind of visibility and opportunity, the roadblocks are removed. So this definitely opens new door. The only thing is, the more agile they have in terms of the thought, the more chances of success is definitely waiting for them.
Sure, absolutely. Agility is a very key part of the success of a startup, and the realization that what works today may not work tomorrow is not obvious, right? You need to know that what was working till yesterday may not work, next month, and that is something which all of us have to be aware of.
Definitely. Thank you, Sushanto, for this conversation.
Thank
And
you.
to
Pleasure.
our audience, I think with that right set of guidance, with the kind of product validation to achieve that market dominance, that turning vision into a tangible aspect and having that lasting impact is definitely the key forward. Hope this conversation was helpful to you for your entrepreneur journey. We wish all the best, and to all our audience, thank you for tuning with us today for this insightful conversation. Do keep watching for this space for more such similar insightful conversations for startups, specifically at Startup Pulse. Thank you so much.